Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sandy Glaze. I'm a personal transformation and self-development coach, and I'm here once again with Desiree, Holmes, Scherini. And today is July 6th. We have a big 2023. We have a big day tomorrow energetically with the 777 portal. And so much is happening right now with transformation and people really starting to take stock of what's going on. There's almost like a resurgence of awakening that's happening right now. So we get a chance to revisit this. So we're going to talk a bit about that and how to find our voice and how to speak up and talk about what's important to us is kind of where Desiree and I were going to go today. Desiree, how are you doing?
I'm good. Good to be here with you. As always. Thanks, Sandy.
Yes.
I like you and your pink. We were.
I know we always seem to wear similar colors without even planning it, right?
Do you like that color on you? And energetically, and I'm not that, you bring up the 777. I am not that savvy with astrology, but I was just talking to someone the other day, and she was talking about these next 6 to 9 months, I think, have this transition of Neptune, I think she said, or was it Jupiter? So yeah, like I said, but a transition that's a kind of a turning point.
And I think Neptune's the dark energy, the hidden energy. So I think I do believe in that as well. And we've got Pluto, Neptune, Uranus. Some of them are already in retrograde. Saturn just went into retrograde, I think, on the 18th. Jupiter's going into retrograde, I think, in September. And I think Venus is going into retrograde again. So this gives people a chance to redo things. So
yeah, there's something about, yeah, that's what she was saying. It's like breaking down, but rebuilding.
Yes, at the same time.
Yeah, and so that's how she was describing it. And we were talking more about personal, life and events, but of course it's, universal as well.
Yes.
So interesting, dynamic around so much that's happening right now these days.
Yes. And people are speaking up in so many ways. And I know we were going to speak about this, the release of this documentary, Sound of Freedom. And I don't want to go into too much because you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but it's just interesting that people are speaking up about different things. But what I'm also finding is the roadblocks that are like the obstacles that are coming out to stop this information from getting out. So we're at a time where we're even in heightened awareness as we're looking at things changing for ourselves, but we're also looking at how the macro is changing, trying to keep our center with all of this while we observe what's happening and make our choices the right choices for us. So interesting.
Yeah. And as usual, just before we came on, we were talking about how we want to share the idea of, how we want to share this information, also how people share information, and how important it is, like we often say when we're talking together on here, to do your own research.
Yes.
To not just, say, oh, well, this person said this, or I saw this, so therefore it's absolute truth. Right. Unless you hear it from us. No, I'm kidding.
And that is so true, right? Because when you count on somebody else that they're right for everything all the time, you're just creating another guru and you're putting somebody else on a pedestal. And maybe they are very knowledgeable in a lot of areas, and maybe they got something wrong and it wasn't intentional. But because so-and-so said, that's triangulation to me. Oh, that gets you off the hook because somebody else said it? No.
It's funny. Did I send you that video on triangulation? Because I don't know if I talked to you about this.
No.
Well, that's a subject for after we
okay.
click off. I'm like, isn't that interesting synchronicity? But yeah, it's right. Maybe we should describe what triangulation is.
Sure.
But before we get there, the topic today was about speaking up, sharing information, discerning, before you stand up and say what anything is the truth. You want to make sure you do your own research. So if you hear something that we bring up, go, oh, that's interesting. Go look it up. I will also say, you could also make your choice of, am I going to look this up on Safari, DuckDuckGo, or Google? Because it's very interesting how you might find different resources. Some are buried deep on one platform and some are easier to find on another, which I always think
what browser. Yeah. Which
interesting.
Browser
yeah.
Yes. And it's okay.
Yeah.
Would like to add this as well. It's okay if you don't agree with anything Desiree and I say. You might have a total different take on it, and it's okay as long as you can back your philosophy, back your thoughts. And I don't mean with us. I mean in general. You know why you feel what you do. I remember one time when I was financial planning, this woman was telling me how she feels sorry for a certain group of people, and it's not racist or anything. Anyway, she keeps going on, and I said, okay, so you had choices to make when you were raising children, and you went without. So why are you so worried about everybody else not going without when you made good choices that got you where you are today? And she looked at me and she goes, I always like talking to you. And I said, why is that? She goes, because I always look at things with rose-colored glasses. My father used to tell me that all the time. And so it's okay. A different perspective just might help you change something, a long-standing belief that you had, that maybe you shed different light on it, right? So
yeah, and exactly, see things a different way. Or you bring up the movie, which I haven't had a chance to go to yet, that you commented in talking to someone after the movie that this was all news to her. She hadn't heard any of this. So there's just information to be had everywhere.
yes.
And once again, once you get something, you go, wow, I hadn't heard that. Or I'd heard something about it, but I'm not sure.
Exactly.
You go to several sources, and now we're kind of getting to the topic, and then you discern the source that you're getting something from. And I think it's a good time to segue into the idea of, well, we used the word grooming that can happen at different levels. But
we all get groomed in life.
Yeah, it's like building, sometimes it's basically like building trust
and credibility.
And some people deservedly gain trust and credibility and are, what's the right word?
They're walking their talk match.
They have integrity.
They're sincere. Yes.
They're sincere and they have integrity. And then there are other people that personality wise or whatever their motivation is, will build in, trust. And then once they've got it,
intention. Yes.
They use it as a manipulative tool.
Right.
So
and those are the various people, and they know what they're doing. We're taught to give them all the benefit of the doubt, and I don't do that anymore. we learn as we grow, right? So can I finish up with one thing about this woman coming out of the theater? A friend had asked her, she said, what did you think? Did you watch that movie, Sound of Freedom? And she said, yes. She goes, I had no idea this was going on. And she almost went into a mini trigger. And she started kind of yelling, and I can't believe these people are doing this. And she went on about a local university and what they're flying for flags and all. She just started going on. And then I said something, I said, it's okay just to take this in, right? She goes, shut up. They all need to shut up. She goes, I don't mean you. And I said, I know, but you don't have to go off the deep end with all this information. Just be grateful that you're learning it and you're starting to see a different perspective. But she definitely had a reaction to this information. So that movie is maybe not as informative for some people who have a lot of information about what's going on. But at the same time, it's an entry-level position for some people. I know if I had known, if they showed me everything I know now and I got it in one seating, I would have been a wreck. So we have to do it. And I'm not saying go slowly, but we go firmly, hold our own, know what we want to talk about, share the information that we have, be assertive with it, but not aggressive. All of those kind of things, right? So when you're talking about the grooming, and it's interesting when you talk about grooming, because we don't like to think we're groomed. You know the saying, it's easier to fool somebody than tell them they've been fooled?
Yeah. Yes.
Right? Don't you love that? It's easier to groom somebody than tell them you dupe them. So this goes against our natural desire not to be ridiculed or made fun of or duped or fooled or whatever. So when you're talking about people with integrity and the people who are genuinely sincere and the ones who are not, they don't care that you don't like it. They will probably turn that against you at some point if they can as well. The fact that, well, you fell for it. They mock and ridicule, right? But so
if they would ever admit that, they would probably still to their dying day say, well, I thought it was the truth.
Yes.
You know,
often that happens, right?
So
So this is interesting watching all these things unfold because some big information is coming out right now. And what we're also noticing is the people who are trying to discredit those people speaking. And you've made a really good point about that. And you would ask, why would they do that? And I don't know if you want to carry on and ask that question again.
Yeah, when Sandy, you brought up that some people seem to be coming out saying, "Oh, this movie is,
Psyop, not real.
Backward propaganda. It's not true. This is made up." And I was like, well, what's the benefit of making something like that up? Like, what would the people making the movie or anyone telling this sort of information, what is their personal gain? I always ask, what does the person have to gain from this? And actually, if somebody's, not to be always a cynic, because some people are sincere and authentic, but it also helps to use discernment, like we're always talking about, and think, okay, how well do I really know this person? What's the motivation? What do they have to gain from whatever it is they're giving me, whether it's information, gifts, time, money, attention? What's their motivation? And is it, sincere and,
and reasonable, a reasonable level.
Yeah. So this information some people share. Putting out this movie, I don't think they're going to get all super rich from it, but obviously it costs a lot of money to make a movie. And if they get super rich, I would assume, somebody could track, they could say, where's the money going? What are they doing with it? Right. Or if somebody shares information, I ask, what's the motivation when somebody says they're lying, it's fake, they just want attention. So we started talking, I brought up, like during COVID, or even talking about side effects from certain things that go in your body, which we still can't even say it for fear.
We don't want to say those words. We don't want to say the C word either.
Oh no, right? I can't say words because it's not okay. Once again, right? So
who benefits?
And what's that all about? That the people, and I'm giving the example, but just by showing that the ones who stood up and said, "Hey, there's something not right here. This is," and what did they have to gain? No, they had to lose. They had their reputation to lose. They had their business to lose. They had money to lose. And many people did. They had
and
their
some
job.
were sued. They had all kinds of, so you're talking the people in the lab coats who stood up and said, wait a minute, something's wrong here.
Yeah, let's step back and look at this, because this doesn't look right. I'm seeing something that shouldn't be happening. And so many, and I talk about, even if I would myself, if I would share something that I found, a study or information that I checked out, and I'm like, oh, it turns out this is true. And if I would share that on my personal Facebook page, it was interesting how a small, loud group of people would just be so unhappy and angry that I would share information. And I'm like, well, what do I have to gain? Obviously, it's not your love, right? So what was, really, I only had to lose to stand up and speak up and say, hey, I have some information I think is worthwhile to share, not for my own good, but for the good of others, that you might want to know this. And of course, there were many who said, thank you for sharing that. I had no idea. And just like you're talking about, the movie that just came out, many people are, wow, I had no idea.
Yes.
And I kind of got off the track about the whole trust.
So the idea is, so what's in it for you for speaking up? So when you look at the actor in this film, Jim Caviezel, he lost both his agents, couldn't get another job in Hollywood. So his punishment was financial. He was ostracized from getting any more parts, so he couldn't work any more roles. So when you get punished to that level, usually you're over the target. And if people don't like it, that's okay. They don't. I'm not advocating for it one way or another. People have to form their own opinion, which is what I totally am all about. But it's interesting when we started talking about Triangulation, but it's interesting, somebody had posted, he thought it was a very positive movie. And somebody came out and put this female victim out there. Her name is Madison, blonde hair, really pretty woman. But she absolutely lost it on a 10-minute clip, trashing the actor, talking about things that I was just kind of blown away because they didn't ask one single survivor what they thought. So it's interesting how this particular survivor is using the "I'm a survivor, I got more say than you" card, which is absolute bunk.
Oh, yeah.
It's absolute bunk, right? So she really just, she did nothing but attack the two of them personally, and she attacked Mel Gibson and just went on and on. And I'm sitting here and I'm listening, and I've been watching this woman for a couple of years. I have my own reasons why I don't believe anything that comes out of her mouth. Who cares? It's my opinion. But somebody turns around and puts that out to be the devil's advocate. Oh, look at this. And I went on this person's Facebook page and I said, what did you like about it and what didn't you like about it? Like, can you articulate why you think it's okay? She goes, I'm just putting out what I found. And I said, no, you're just bringing something dark to this whole movie. I said, there's a lot of really good interviews out there. You could have posted something supportive, but you chose the opposite. Well, then she gets her back up. Right? You're pushing the narrative. No, I'm asking you what you liked about that clip and what you didn't like about the clip and what you think is relevant and what you don't. So here's where she triangulates. She turns around and says, well, so-and-so likes it, and puts this person who's somewhat known. So that's triangulation, dropping this person in. Well, so-and-so says,
oh yeah,
one form of triangulation, right? There's many different types of it, but that's kind of one. So now that validates you because you brought somebody else in who supposedly has more say on a topic that's unrelated. So this is part of the discernment. So triangulation, do you have a working definition? I know I wrote one down, but so for triangulation, what it is for me is bringing another person's name in wittingly, unwittingly, and maybe you're gossiping about them. Maybe you're turning it on and saying, guess what so-and-so says about you? But that person didn't say it. The person whispering in your ear probably said it. And they're trying to make it look like somebody else that they're trying to be your friend. Look me, I'm helping you. So it's a form of manipulation for sure. I don't, you could probably explain it.
Well, the video I mentioned, asking, did I send that to you, was Dr. Les Carter. I'm surprised if you haven't run across him yet, you will enjoy. He does a lot of work on narcissism. Okay. And the video was, I think it was called Triangulation. It might have just been the dirty tricks that narcissists play, something like that. And it was around triangulation. That was kind of the central theme of that particular video. And he gave the example you gave. One of them might be comparing, like, if I want to manipulate you, or I want to convince you of something, or have you, do what I want you to do, I might say to you, well, Sandy, Mary never had this problem. Mary was like my last employee. She never asked those questions of me. It's like giving, comparing you against an ideal. Yes. That you're not the ideal. Like if you were any good, sorry, my stuff is falling down. If you were any good, then, we wouldn't be having this problem. You'd be more like, why can't you be like Mary?
Right. But I wouldn't know who Mary is because Mary's already left the position. Yeah, and
just like
there's nothing to
prove. Random other person.
Right.
But also another form of triangulation is like she did, whoever you were having the conversation with on Facebook, is to pull in, to go to other people, either pull in other people to back up, right, to bring in your
support
army.
You.
They agree with me and you are alone. That's another one. Or if there's a relationship sort of a thing going on, say it's so 3 people, 4 people, is 2 people are having a problem and one of them will go to the others. Yes, and recruit. And say whatever, to the others, hey, they might lie, they might exaggerate, they might misrepresent, what's happening. And this is where you talk about gossip, for example, where people, and this, I think we brought this up as a topic too, that people will say things about you and you're like, what? No, and where'd you get that? Well, I can't say where I got it.
Then you shouldn't be saying it at all.
but it was from this triangulation that someone else, basically will throw you under the bus to make it look like they're the better person or have their way and gain some sort of superiority or control over your behavior.
Yes. Your thoughts, so your emotions.
In particular with, like, say, a narcissistic situation. If you're not going along with what the narcissist wants, then they will say, okay, you know, I don't need your agreement. I'm going to go around you and get these others, and then we're going to make it happen. Um, and one of the things he brought up, and I'm thinking, oh, have I been triangulating? If I talked to other people about a situation, right? Luckily, at the end, he brought up that it's different than sharing information around a situation. It is bringing in information or non-information, or leaving someone out of that information. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
That's a control
so
as well.
it's different than, you know, talking about something. It's maligning,
Yes.
without truth, or, you know, the background, maligning and picking and choosing what you're sharing and bringing in to the other people. So it
With
was
the intent of making them think what you want them to think. So an
exactly.
example would be, maybe you have a friend who's going through a difficult situation, and you know, you're all together and she gets up and leaves, and somebody says, oh, it's horrible what she's going through. That's not triangulation, because that person's not trying to get anybody else against anybody else. There's no motive there. So that's what I see it as. So like, it's not that you never have a conversation about somebody, right? And just, I can't believe what that person did to her or whatever, right? But you
Yes.
wouldn't know that other person, so you wouldn't have, you wouldn't be able to be influenced to go and do something that would be, that could even make it worse. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's explaining it
Or
well.
say if there's a couple going through a divorce, and, you know, the wife says, you know, oh, you know, he got so mad he threw furniture the other day, and I'm scared of him, and it's not made up, right?
Right.
Whereas, you know, say the other party, it might be saying, well, you know, she's had 5 affairs, and, you know, and it's not true, you know,
Right.
like purposely trying to make the other, one's purposely trying to make the other look bad with, like, you know, either half truths or lies.
And they
And
wouldn't
one's,
know unless that person told them either. So they
unless they're
wouldn't.
in there, right? Yeah.
So that's kind of
So
where we're going, even though we're kind of coming at this maybe through the back door, but we're trying
yeah,
to show people how to start assessing information, because these games are only going to get worse, because the little ones that are being sold right now, this is going to be one of the biggest eye-opening events that is happening moving forward, and the people who benefit from it are going to be pushing back like crazy to try to control the narrative, because it's always about controlling the narrative, right? And
yeah,
that's why it's so important that we find our voice and say no more, or whatever, maybe whatever people, wherever they stand with us. But the idea is, one, understanding these little games that get played. And the post I ended up, the last comment I ended up making on this was, we're about to up our game right across the board, because they're going to up their game to keep control of the narrative and shut this all down again.
yeah,
People are speaking up more, so then there's going to be more of an expanded awareness, and people are going to start asking questions. That means they got to go back and control the internet.
yeah.
They got to
And they're gonna,
control.
and
So
turn it into one of those things. It's like, oh, just another conspiracy,
right. So
you
these things
know?
are getting old. We're not even wasting our time talking to those people anymore, right? So what I like about these, this Tim Ballard and Jim Caviezel, what they've both been participating in numerous interviews. So even though the documentary didn't cover things to a certain depth, and that's all, like, it's more of an entry level, I think. But what they do in their interviews, they talk about everything. So I think Tim Ballard, I think, was the one talking to Jordan Peterson, and he came right out, and they're talking about absolutely everything, the harvesting organs, everything.
Yeah.
So, and it's okay to know that this is pretty disgusting. It's okay to know that, but where's all the different people who are tasked with protecting the children? They all work in the agencies that are doing this, that are supporting this. And I think it's time that more of that's going to come out. I'm not saying everybody who works in these agencies is bad. I don't get to say that, but if they don't know what's even going on in their own agency and it's under their nose, what level of competency would we give them? Right.
Yeah.
So that was, what was another one? Tony Robbins interviewed Tim Ballard as well, which I thought was pretty interesting. Now, Tony Robbins has helped support this film. So you talked about this film making money, and then you would look at ulterior motives. Can you imagine anywhere else except for standing up against violent or abusive behaviors where making money is a problem? So nobody ever questions doctors, nobody questions businessmen, nobody questions executives for making money. But when you stand up and say something that's not popular, well, they're going to go from, look how much money they're making. So my understanding, this film pre-sold, they were really pushing to pre-sell the tickets. They sold more than Indiana Jones on opening day.
Really? That's fantastic.
So that's a Disney movie, right?
And then they also had a platform for free tickets.
Yes. Pay it forward. So I don't think it's about the free tickets per se. I think they just want to make sure everybody can go and see it. I think we paid $12, $13. Like it wasn't an expensive show. I don't even know what they charge for a movie now. But the idea is that you're walking away with knowledge. And when you're with a group of people, so it doesn't matter if your theater's half full, totally full, and you can see everybody's into it and nobody's scoffing at it, then chances are that you're probably with somewhat of a like-minded group. Now watch somebody go in and start scoffing at the movies, but when they go in, right? But they're not going to pay $13 to do that. So you start to get a feel when you see them nodding in their seats, and you start to realize, okay, more people are getting this than we think, and this is what's going to be part of the turning point and part of the shift that we are going to. I think it's going to happen pretty quick, where people just stand up and say, "How did we get to this point? How did we let it get this bad?" Even Tim Ballard and Jim Caviezel, they were talking about what's going on with the teaching in the school with that upside down flag. And what did he call it? The economy of philia. So they realized the whole economy is running on this, that it's even surpassed the drug trade.
Oh, so what is that? Yeah, crazy.
So we're gonna talk off camera maybe and figure out what we're gonna talk about in another show. But I've got some ideas where I really, really, really want this conversation to go. Just why is there such a need? So it's just a lot of interesting information coming out, but again, it's the discernment. Some people are open to looking at things from new perspectives. Other people are going to try the same old dirty tricks. Well, guess what she said? Oh, she's got more say because she's semi-famous. Like, that's not how this works.
Or a Hollywood actress who
might be
one of the customers of one of the products,
right?
Or actor, or politician, or who knows what they have on people. They're
don't let them name drop. Is what you're saying. What we're saying. Don't let people name drop you. That so and so said it. That doesn't mean anything.
And it's and like we say, it's hard to discern exactly how much, when I hear names out there that so and so, it turns out so and so and so and so and so, all these people are somehow involved in certain things. It's like, really? Not them. Oh, I really liked them. Right. But I take it with a grain of salt. I'm like, okay, I would like to see everything come to light, truth come to light. And if people have been maligned by, somebody saying, oh, they're involved in this, that they've used this to their, pleasure or benefit, that if it's true, that definitely would come to light. So when we talk about what does somebody have to benefit from, what does anybody have to benefit from saying it's true or saying somebody's involved with it, and they don't have a personal relationship with that, say, politician, actor, or group of people? But if somebody's saying, hey, I happen to know this, I've seen it, it's true, here's the evidence, what does that individual have to gain?
In this topic, they'd be dead. Isaac Cappy.
Yeah.
So when you're talking the stars, they would be gone.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't say, I saw so-and-so take so-and-so upstairs and do so. You would never say that, because chances are you were part of it, if that's the case, or somebody knows what the connotation would be. So you would never say, I saw that. And I try to stay away from the names. Every once in a while I slip up, but I don't go to the names. I just look at the information and assess what it is. Why is this happening? Why are these the stats off the government website? Why is this organization supporting this? Why are they not opposing this? Why are more steps not taken to put a primary protection plan in place, that we know what this is, that we can start informing the parents when they find out they're expecting? Prenatal classes. Why aren't the educators? Why aren't we asking the educators what they're taught about this? And I remember back in 2015, the educators said, we're not trained on any of this. Of course not, because the higher ups want you nice and stupid. Yeah. They don't want you to know how to protect the children or what's not appropriate. Look at where we are right now. So a lot of these things are like, why isn't this information in a doctor's office? That, the first 5 years are formidable years of a child's life. If somebody's spending too much time or showing too much interest in your child, there could be a reason. Why are we not being told that when it does happen in the family dynamic, it can be parents, it can be grandparents, aunts and uncles, it can be another child when they hit puberty? Why is none of this information out there? So okay, so now you know what I'm working on. But why is this information not available, readily available? Because it's got to be hidden because nobody's supposed to know how this works.
Yeah, it's like you can it's hush hush on the valuable information for prevention, care, safety. But boy, is it a very loud and pushed forward information and exposure when it comes to things like certain shows in kindergarten or
Totally.
parades, or you know what I'm talking like. It's like, wow, there's a lot of effort for you know, saying, hey, this is cool,
Normalize it.
this is accepting, normalizing, celebrating, literally the word
Totally.
celebrating certain things, but not saying, hey, it's not okay if people, you know, do certain things. And then even for that, it's a weird mix. I used to teach preschool art years ago. And when my kids were little and I had a little part-time job, and the children, you know, 2 to 4, would run up to me and just jump in my arms, you know, and I'm like, hi, honey, you know. And so here's kind of the flip side, but in a negative way. They would hug me, right? And I wasn't like, okay, let go of me, kid, can't, you know. I would say, hey, good morning, you know, let's go. Or, you know, they want to hold my hand when we go down the hall or that sort of thing. All right. And there was a 19-year-old assistant in the class, and obviously I was older than her. And she says, that's not appropriate behavior. She chastised me because the children were hugging me. And I'm like, and she goes, you know, what? The child hugged me and I didn't push the kid off me, you know? So there's got to be appropriate touch and you know, kindness. And then there's inappropriate touching. And this is where, again, discernment comes in, and parents should teach their children, you know, comfortable, appropriate touch and inappropriate touch. Now, if I was going up to every child that came in and touching them when we're, you know, I mean, that's different. The child hugs you, you hug the child, and you go on with your day. So this is me. Maybe I'm old fashioned, right?
So look at the environment that's changed. So there's nothing wrong. And you know how to hug. I know how to hug a child without being inappropriate. But you look at the environment they're in now, you might be one teacher that they get pre-kindergarten, and then the next teacher's all for getting them offside. So
yeah.
I would hope the parents would know you don't have to hug anybody or even set it down somehow, that not that it's necessarily a policy, but
yeah,
what is appropriate with it, right?
Right. And exactly. There's like appropriate places to touch anyone,
Right.
the arm, the back, right? There could be training in that sort of things, but it was like very black and white. And how do you, like, you know, and how mean for a little kid to run up and give you a hug and you're like, oh, can't touch you.
Yes,
Sorry, kid.
you wouldn't do that. And
Yeah.
things have changed, I think. If not, they definitely need to change that. The kids just don't go and hug everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I know some parents really push the kids to do that. We've talked about that. Go hug so and so. Go hug
yes.
Aunt Millie. You go hug Aunt Millie.
That's the far end of, and this is where that discernment and parents
right
can help children learn. You know, and I was a trusted adult in the classroom who was an appropriate adult.
Right.
But you're right. You know, to teach their child, if who even was a trusted adult, if any adult or anyone else touches you below here or too long in this place, you tell your mom, you tell your dad, right? You tell whoever does it, right? So there's that certain places are okay places, and this is kind of
private places
off the topic. Yeah. And yeah, but yeah, it's out there and it's very hard to boom one way or the other.
So
And
that's where we're.
I got distracted with that.
So that's what we're noticing though, is as more people are starting to come out and talk about it, they're going to push it the other way. And it's interesting. There's a certain store I've been into a few times, I don't know, in the last month, and they kept asking if I wanted to donate to that cause. And I would be like, are you kidding me? You know what you're promoting. And this is where finding your voice and standing up and just saying, this is what they're promoting. I can't believe you're doing that. And I went in another time and they asked me about supporting another charity. And I said, oh, you're not supporting that one still? And she said, you wouldn't believe how many complaints we got. They gave us more charities to choose from. So I'm like, well, good. That's good. People are speaking up and saying their voicing their displeasure at the point of sale when they're asked to give a donation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically you're endorsing it if you're giving a donation to this. Anyways, I went in July. So this is only supposed to be for the month of June. I went in one day in July and they asked again. And I'm sitting here thinking July 3rd, July 4th, and you're still asking that question? And I realized they're going into season, not just month, they're going into season. And this is what's going to normalize it, because by the time September comes around, they've got to have the information getting out there. So they offer at point of sale in certain stores. There's 2 stores, government stores, that they do this in. But anyway, so what'll happen, because the schools are closed, so now they'll still be able to get the information and planting the seed in the parents' heads when they're buying things and these stores, right? So like these guys are slippery. And my point is they're going to try to normalize it without even legalizing it.
Yeah.
They're going to say the kids want it.
Well, speaking of the idea of grooming, like you say, we all get groomed. And in a few videos ago, we talked about we talked about mass hypnosis last time. As well as before that, we talked about groups of people in general, how there are some people that have discernment that are like, I'm not just going to swallow this whole. Let me look at all the parts and pieces and then make up my own mind. Right. Then there's the people in the middle that don't want to make waves, so they just go along with whoever's the loudest. And then there are the people that jump on the bandwagon. So-and-so said so. I saw this on the news, or this is true. I've heard it enough times that I believe it. Right. And therefore, this is it. You're wrong if you don't believe what everyone's saying, right? And so the ones in the middle, just to go along to get along, will do that. So we'll see the same thing about this slow trickle. Rachel Levine. That it's her.
Do you say Richard?
Her name, their name. I don't know what the appropriate pronouns are. I apologize. I don't know.
I don't apologize. It's if it's got outdoor plumbing underneath, it's a he.
I haven't looked underneath. I'm not sure what's anyway. That person did a promotional video for in uniform, talking about Pride Month. June is Pride Month. LGBT.
We gotta watch what we say, because I want this to stay on YouTube. Month. Hang on, Desiree, I want this to stay on YouTube.
Well, what did I say wrong there? Pride?
I don't even think we can say that. I think it's that bad. I've had 2 strikes already.
That word? Well, you know what I was going to post for the July, the original Pride Month. 4th of July.
The flag?
Yeah.
The American flag?
Yeah, the original Pride Month. Anyway, and then I think she, doesn't matter. Anyway, that person said, happy this month, June for such and such, with the flag in the background, of which we know, not the US flag as she stood there in uniform. But the other one. And she says, as a matter of fact, let's not stop there. Let this be the summer of Pride.
Right. So they're saying this. They're really pushing.
This is the government.
I know.
Sanctioned government message. Yeah.
So what does that tell us? Who's trying to hurt your kids?
Yeah. Like, what is their benefit? What is the benefit of whoever's kind of running the government? What benefit? What do they have to gain?
Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
You start. Start.
Well, if they're guilty of anything, then if it's normalized, then they don't get, they won't be seen with such angry eyes. They won't be viewed as harshly. There's a lot of money in this if it's connected to certain government facilities or even non-government facilities. So they get so much money for all the kids who go through this. They get paid out for the surgeries. The doctors get paid out for the surgeries. There's a lot of people who benefit from that. So, and even if you've done some dirty deeds yourself, and you don't want to get caught, well, if they normalize it, then you're not going to look as bad again to the people in your family when they find out that somebody says, guess what you did. So there's a lot of benefits to keeping this hidden and not letting it come out, and a lot of benefits to normalizing it. And there's nothing normal about it. So you know what I was going to say? Do you know what really impresses me about energy? So my understanding with the automation, the electric charge leads and the magnetic charge follows. The electric is the male, the magnetic is the female. And with this movie, it's the men coming out. So women have been speaking up, and some of us have been getting pushed down or suppressed, or our information has been stifled, but we're watching them come out, and they're not really taking the hits when somebody says, oh, it's not real, it's just Hollywood, it's a cover up, whatever. They're not even going down that road. They're actually staying with the next interview, and they're staying on track, and they're staying on focus, which I could benefit from a lot of
yeah, well, me too. You just said that. I'm like, huh? What? Okay.
Because it's the female energy that we're not necessarily as focused. I'm not saying it's that way for all women, just sometimes that's the way, right? But we were talking about them making money. I have no idea what they're doing with this money, but I know Tony Robbins, he has come out and said him and his wife donated $5 million to the studio. So there's people who are supporting it in the back so that they have enough to live on. I think Tim Ballard said he's up to 9 children now. So even if they are being helped out financially, who cares? It's not your money.
And isn't that the truth? You know, would anyone be asking about, like, well, what's their motivation? Oh, they're going to make money. They don't ask that about any other film. Films are to make money. And what if you made a film that made a, shared important information or made a statement and made money? That's happened before, hasn't it?
Yes.
It's happened before with, so many important films. Like, think of To Kill a Mockingbird, right? That was an important statement about, the justice system, right? And in a good movie too. So many,
not that it helped, it only got worse, but yeah. I know what you mean, right? So there's nothing wrong with making money unless it's for a good cause.
Yeah,
that seems to be the statement that's out there, right?
And it's also one of the conversations is a little bit, this is off to the side, but as people that do energy work or healing, therapeutic work, as long as they don't, unless it's a psychiatrist, right, or a psychologist, but there's a lot of people that do alternative work,
coaching, all kinds of therapies.
And but sometimes, especially the ones that have a natural ability to offer energetic healing and help to someone, a lot of times people seem to expect, oh, well, you have a gift, so you should do this for free.
Yes, and this is interesting.
And it's like, well, wait a minute, but I also have bills, like people will say, I have a gift and I have a bill. And doctors have a gift. They have a gift of the intelligence and the tenacity to go through medical school.
Okay, can we stop on that? I have a friend who was just down in Florida for a month.
Yeah.
And she was at a wellness center, and a lot of people are supposed to go there to get cured from cancer. And she said, she asked if they wanted her to bring her doctor's information down, and they said no. And when she got there, she asked why. And they said, we're going to do all the testing here. She goes, do you know how many people get told they have cancer because they get prescribed chemo because that person gets paid? So even though that person has a piece of paper, it doesn't mean there's integrity or morality or ethics or a life view. She goes, you would be surprised how many people come through here who don't have it. They only need to stay a week just to get their diet back on track and get their emotions calmed down. So the doctors also told her that they're changing the medical system right now. They're not going to teach about anatomy. So this is in the United States. They're going to teach you how to write a script. So we go giving people the benefit of the doubt that you've gone to all this work. That doesn't mean a thing to me. There's one doctor up here, she was a medical doctor and realized she had changed her opinion about its effectiveness and went through for a naturopath. So she's got both of those credentials, but she understands one is more powerful than the other. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure if she broke a leg or something, she would
Yeah.
go back to the other one.
Unless they stop studying anatomy, then how do you fix a broken leg? But go on.
So even that down the road, right? But that's what they told this woman, that the medical system is changing in the US, that it's just going to be about writing scripts. And then if you heard in Canada, they're stopping our supplements. They want to save our supplements.
Did that passed?
Yeah, it did. I believe it did. I shouldn't say it did. I believe it did. Yes, last week.
That's been an effort for a long time in all of North America, US and Canada, to undermine any holistic and,
natural wellness.
Yeah.
So
can't have that.
Can't have that. You gotta have their system. And this is where with discernment comes in, because we have to get almost like a distaste in our mouth for the people. It doesn't matter if they're the bylaws, if they're the mayors, if they're the council, school boards, whatever. Will all do what they need to do for this. They don't care. They're not going to stand up. And those examples, they have nothing to do with Health Canada, but look at the Health Canada workers. Who gets to say what you eat? So what they're doing, I was at the health food store and I was asking the woman about that, the cashier, and she said, they've got these little sheets of cardboard to fill out, whatever, send off to your MPP. She said, do you know how many companies are going to go out of business? They have to go and redo all of their labels. You think our prime minister, the one who had sex with a 12-year-old girl when he was a drama teacher out at, I think it was West,
I didn't know that.
In BC. Yeah. And she, the parents settled, he paid, well, of course they paid him out, look at his family is. And so then there was a do not disclose, so nobody knows about that. And then they've got all the logos as well on the Pierre Elliott Trudeau papers from the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Trust, like the foundational papers. Like, I don't know if it was like a year-end report. I don't know what it was exactly, but they had all those logos on there, and they got caught and they just take them off and away they go. Do you think he was going to lock you down? Do you think he's going to make you take something in your body that maybe you don't want and then turn around and cut out your job? Do you think he wouldn't have a problem taking away the things that you like that make you feel good?
Yeah, or that naturally help your health without having to go through a particularly financial based method of somebody's making,
So there you go with the making the money again. It's okay for them to make it, but it's not okay for you to make it if you're making a film about something that is going to maybe help other people, especially the little ones, or the spiritual teachings. I get that one too.
Yeah.
You should do this for free. Do you work? Do you get paid?
Yeah. And
right?
Even if it's just a time, it's just the time.
Driver.
Say, yeah, well, my time is worth.
Totally. And you put a lot of hours into the studying
and money
and course material. So we just have a different area of expertise, and we do charge for our time because that is what is a value, right? And it's also works with the energy work that we do as well, right? But it's interesting because I'm finding people are really waking up, even with the ascension, and they're starting to see things differently. Some people are starting to see the other side of the veil. They're just seeing little things out of the corner of their eye. So many things are happening at one time. And I think that's why the other push for this is so that they can destroy the soul of the child, so that's easier to program the child.
Yeah, or just to make it like, of course it's normal. Come here, honey. I will have to say, I myself am very lucky. I've never had anyone say to me, oh, you should do this for free. No one, I've never had that, but I have talked to others that it's happened to.
Yes.
And
I haven't had too much of it either.
Yeah. So that's good.
Right. So hopefully this has been a help for people today, talking about finding our voice. I know I spoke about it, I think it was earlier this week, I was talking a bit about finding your voice, but how important it is right now, because what I'm finding is we are standing in our knowing of right and wrong, and we're seeing that without being judgmental. It's not that we're tripping or anything like that, but we just know what's wrong and we're saying it with conviction. And the one day I was in the store and I'm saying, you know what you're supporting here? And there was a woman about to go into the office and she turned and looked, and I could tell she was going to come up and address me. And as I kept talking, and I said, is your regional manager going to be on the hook if something happens to a child because of what you're promoting here? And that's when this woman stopped. And I thought, okay, we get accountability.
Yeah, they don't want it coming back on them.
Right. But if that's going to be their motive to do the right thing, then we'll take it for now. But that's still the wrong reason. But we'll take it for now because people are starting to look at accountability. Who knows what's going to happen with a system that's as corrupt as this one is. But I just get a real strong feeling that more people are going to be finding their voice, speaking with conviction, say it like you mean it, be articulate in what you're saying and what you're sharing with people. let them know why it's wrong. So it's really interesting when we came out of the movie. We went to see it Monday night. I don't know if there's maybe 6 or 8 of us standing around, and somebody asked how, she goes, how do you know that movement is about the philia? And I thought to myself, what a great question. Because if we can't articulate how it is and how we know in like 3 or 4 sentences, we can give people the tools and say, this is how, this is why, this is what they're promoting, this is where it's against the law. And we can give them the tools, more people can see it. And she said something interesting happened in her school. She goes, I have a teenager and he was so mad with what was being pushed on him last month. He went and ripped a sign down that was on outside his wall or by his locker. And it was on film. So they called him into the principal's office, called his mother in. His mother, so she's like, the principal's like, do you know what your son did? And she goes, no. And he explained it or whatever, what her son had done. And I can't remember if they asked the son for what his side of this is, but the mother said, you know, you want these kids to speak up. They speak up. They're not comfortable with this. We don't discuss this in our home. I come from such and such a country. This is not discussed in we don't believe in this. So you're asking him to suck up what somebody else is forcing on him, and that's not okay. And she said he actually sat back and listened and said, I never thought of it that way before. But she could articulate very well why this flag is not flying in our house. We don't agree with it. We don't talk about this, about certain things. It's our job to educate our children. But what a great mom to go in, support the child, by not really necessarily supporting him per se, but by saying he has the right. You guys are ramming this down his throat. We tell him to speak up, but then we tell him to shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we wonder why the kids start to vibrate.
Can have their own opinion unless it's not the same as mine. You know,
right.
Like,
so that's basically what they're teaching. So it was really neat for this mom to go in and just say what happened, listening, right? Got his side of the story, could articulate it, explain why. So she's got a set of standards and values in her house. This is what we stand for as a family. This is what we believe in. This is what's nobody's business. This is what we'll discuss when the time comes. She said her and her husband, like, she's in really good shape, beautiful woman, really good shape. But she says, we look after ourselves. She goes, we walk or talk. We don't want our kids to eat junk food, then we don't eat junk food. So it's just interesting listening to somebody with teenagers talk about how what they're doing, like the different philosophies. And then another friend, a mutual friend of ours, anyway, she started talking. She's got a 17-year-old right now, and she talks about the things. She's told me all kinds of conversations about what she just discusses with him. And he sees what's going on, but he's struggling because he says, most of the students don't, Mom. So, but she's there to reinforce him. So he knows he's got somebody to go home to and discuss what he sees and discuss what's going on. And she can have an adult conversation with him and encourage him to stay true to himself, but don't speak in front of some of these people. We're talking the adults need to speak up and find your voice. We're not saying the kids need to do that. We need to stop hiding behind them. You know, we need to stand up as the adults and just say, no, this is not flying. No pun intended.
And this is not, you know, certain things are not normal. And to bring it back to, like, you know, because I'm scattered today. I was kind of driving all over the street here, but but the idea of speaking up and having your voice and not being afraid kind of brings it back to how, you know, so I kind of want to briefly, you know, bring up, know what you're talking about. You know, people, do your own research, form your own opinion based on truth and your heart and your gut. And, you know, don't just flatly deny one thing or flatly, you know, say this is true. Know what you're talking about. And when you have an opinion, whatever it is, don't be bullied into shutting up. There are ways to speak up without being a bully, without being aggressive, without shouting other people down, like we often see from certain, you know, on the news. That's what they seem to show, is when people are shouting each other down. There's just speaking assertively is like, you know, you do, Sandy. You say, you don't have to agree with me. Here's my opinion. Here's why I believe so. And you can look it up yourself. Or, you know, I would call myself, you know, politically somebody had to tell me what I was, because I'm like, I don't know. I just have certain beliefs, and you know, I obviously maybe lean more toward conservative, social, and fiscally. but I'm very open. And so someone told me, what am I, a libertarian? It's like, okay, I respect your rights. I'd like my rights to be respected, like you were talking about this mother and her son at school. You're right, your beliefs are not my beliefs. And if they are, that's great, but I don't expect you to have to adopt mine, and I shouldn't have to adopt yours or, worship yours.
Yes.
So forgot where this was going. I swear I'm so scattered today. But to just be able to stand in your
to speak up in a way that you have respect for yourself, respect for the other person,
yes.
and you can articulate. You're talking about how to stand up.
And someone recently was having a conversation. I was with a group, and somebody said something about one of our political leaders. Oh, he's an asshole. Sorry, oops, that probably won't get us kicked off YouTube.
That one is okay.
And, yeah, I know. Things, right? And yeah, and they weren't from the US. They were from someplace else. And and I started to say something about, I said, you know what? You probably, I said, I don't think the media that you've probably heard things on gave the whole story, gives a complete picture of that person. And somebody else next to me goes, oh, almost like be quiet, because they wanted to fit in. They didn't want to like challenge this guy saying that. And the guy who said it actually ended up having a conversation and, was open to hearing. But so many people will just go, no, 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 don't say anything.
So where did they get to be so fearful?
Yeah,
and
it's
afraid
like,
to use their voice?
and even by association, look, don't speak up, if you're in my group.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, oh, maybe I don't belong in your group,
and maybe things are going to change as more people are speaking up. We're going to find more people will find their voice, and whatever discussion they find close to their heart. Like, it's different for different people, right? It's interesting. You said they called you a libertarian. you
Yeah,
know what I
somebody told me
find?
that's what I am. I'm like, okay. If
So
I
you
have to have a
find,
label,
and they do have a label, but the problem with labels is you find 5 different people, they might have a different definition of what that label means. So you think you're all talking the same thing, and you really aren't.
no,
So
just
I
like
try not to go into those labels.
yeah, like the word Christian. How many people say, "Well, I'm a Christian," and it's like runs the gamut from one end to the other. Same thing with Muslim. Same thing with any political party. Someone might say they're liberal because maybe there's a part of liberalism that is really important to them, but maybe the rest of their choices would not be liberal.
Right.
Same thing, conservative.
But at least a Goldilocks complex. Who says you got the right temperature or the right softness in your mattress?
Yeah.
So that's where do no harm, right? Is a really big.
And I guess where it comes the base of, I guess, my thought around it is people, do you have your beliefs,
Provided you don't hurt anyone.
Don't hurt anyone, and don't insist that your beliefs are the only beliefs or the right beliefs. They may not be the right ones for me, and vice versa, right?
And as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, they can have those beliefs.
Yeah, it's like keep your hands to yourself kind of thing. Do the appropriate hug. Don't touch me there. Don't touch, leave my children alone,
So a lot of information is coming out that they know that's what they want is the little ones. so I just think people are starting just to get fed up with a lot of the ads that were coming out last month. People are getting fed up with the big corporations, getting a handout for going along with certain things. So we realize that they don't even have a proper balance sheet or a share price, that they're getting subsidized to go along with this. So is this going to be the fall of the markets?
About, why are certain companies, corporations, what's their motivation
Totally.
to highlight a certain way of life? And you started with something. I swear my brain is, I don't think I had enough caffeine because I'm having like thought in, thought out.
Like share prices in the corporation. So we think a stock is worth so much money, and then you find out they're getting subsidized because they're going along with something else. Is that subsidy showing up on the balance sheet of that company? And it's interesting. Who was talking about universities yesterday? I can't remember what somebody was saying about universities. Anyways, and I posted it. Next thing you know, somebody sends me a link that shows all the universities are charitable organizations. So they get all of this government money, but they don't have to pay tax on it. Then why are they charging tuition so much for the students if they're getting all this free money anyways? So I think lots of questions being asked, right? I don't know what the answers are. I just thought that was pretty interesting that somebody sent me all of the universities that have charitable status.
And I think what we also need to be aware of is if it's the government, the corporations, all the schools, the education system, if all of this is getting the same, sharing such a similar message, just like when we've seen the video of the media of all the news stations repeating the same words,
Totally.
that they got the script and they're going to say it. There's a head on the Medusa monster. Okay. There's a head, and it's really interesting to say who is up there pulling the triggers and making all these. Where's it? What's the, what's the motivation? Where's the controls? Who's running the control system of all of that?
Yeah.
And
I think we're about to find out. Something is telling me, like you said, over the next, whatever, 8 to 10 months, I think we're about to see more things be exposed for what they are. That's what so the investigators in the US are starting to investigate. The Congress and Senate is starting to investigate the investigators because they're realizing that everything is just a cover up. And that's what we're doing. We're observing the observers because we're not stationed in that capacity anywhere in any of those corporations or organizations. So what we're doing is we're observing the observers to see who's putting pushback on things that don't make any sense just because they're using the same old games they used to use because that's all they've got because they don't know, they can't create new things. So they're going to the same olds. But this is what we're starting to see, right? And we're not buying into it anymore.
What it takes, like you said, are some people to stand up, speak up, and then the two ways. Either somebody has integrity, say if we have congressmen or civic leaders or whatever, somebody in power has integrity to move forward and create, like you say, investigate the investigators because they are under the control system, or force moral behavior, force people to stop a certain behavior because they have something to lose, which is usually money, prestige, whatever, like, or have to make somebody do it, like rules in school. They're the kids who okay, I'm not going to punch Tommy because that's not nice. Then they're the kids who won't punch Tommy because somebody's watching, but otherwise they're going to punch Tommy just to be mean, right? You know what I mean? So these are, and my point about the tendrils is that just because everybody's doing it and everybody says it's okay and everybody from the beer can to Target to the grade school teacher to the university professor to the president of the United States says, oh, this is a good thing, you got to go, wait, why? Where's this message? And have your own discernment as to why this message all of a sudden has grown to such a good thing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Right. And I think it's coming to that, but do you know what? It's 4:20. Six. So I know you said you're good till about a few more minutes from now, but and this is really good that we are using the discernment because we are starting to notice at a different level. And I do think everybody's upping the game, that we're starting to see how the games are played on every level, whether it's a social media platform, how people get shut down. So I made a comment on somebody else's, a different platform, and this guy comes out and tells me to go meditate, Sandy. How do you know I meditate? Like it just gets petty stuff, right? But yeah. So the point is, we're starting to see it for what it is, and you just block them. You don't even bother just because they didn't agree with what you said. You know what I mean? So interesting things. So Desiree, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for riding down the winding road with me today, because I was a bit all over the place, but hopefully it was like, little fingers off the same topic. And hopefully I maintained my assertive opinion rather than yelling at anybody. I just, as usual, really encourage people to think about things. I'd love to do, when we're talking about this energy and stuff, I'd love to do a talk, maybe in the next few weeks around the energy of this time, moving into a more metaphysical space for the kind of the fun of it. And
Yes.
look at astrology, look at the energies, the frequencies of what's, what's
The sun
coming.
flares are happening right now, the CMEs. So we're getting a lot of energy boost from nature and from the cosmos itself, which is helping people wake up. We're really realizing the sun is what energizes us. I've been posting a lot of videos about cats moving across the carpet during the day and staying in the sunlight. I remember as a kid, I would always sit in the front window and my family thought I was nuts, right? But I would sit there curled up like a cat in the wintertime. Yeah. But in hindsight, I always loved the sun, and I was told that I was going to get the C word someday and all this kind of nonsense, right? But my point is, we're really starting to see how all of these energies tie in. So that would be wonderful to do that. I would like that as well.
Yeah, and not to get too weird here, but what's interesting, the fires up there in Canada, that's a whole nother story.
Supposedly.
That are blowing the smoke down over the US. It's been going on for like 2 months, has it?
I don't think all the fires have been steady. I thought we've had enough rain that they were out for a while.
No, apparently there's more that have just happened. So the reason I bring this up is about the sunshine, and about the healthiness of being out in the sunshine. And so just yesterday and the couple days recently, it's right now until they're saying, oh, until midnight. And every day they go, oh, until midnight. And they keep adding it, that there's a code red weather or air quality, and you shouldn't be outside, and you shouldn't be outside breathing. And yeah, there were a few days where it was orange air and it was like, okay, this is, not good. But now they said it again. And I'm like, so there's rolling thunderstorms in between, the sky is blue, yet they have a code red, don't go outside.
So I don't know what's happening. Is your parliament, like, is the White House been torched? Are you anywhere near there?
Has it been torched? I haven't heard about it.
You would know. Somebody in your city would know, right? But I was just wondering if some of the fires aren't what you're being told they are, because even our air quality. So I'm further west than you, but we have the fires up there. We're not getting smoke. We're not smelling the smoke.
They're saying, oh, more fires in Canada are feeding down over Chicago and then turning around coming down here. That's the latest. But what I'm wondering is that it reminded me of that C word, don't go outside, stay inside, and I'm like, wait a minute, it's a beautiful clear blue day, yet they're saying you shouldn't be outside. That when you brought
You're
up
really questioning things. So
yeah, I do.
Considered where exactly where Chicago is. So it would be coming through.
I think the fires, they say, are in mostly mid to western Canada, and it's feeding down. I'll do it like, this way over to our east coast, like a little wiggle over Illinois.
If it's from western Canada, I'd be getting it, because it would be coming over the Great Lakes, and it's not. So so who knows what they're doing, right?
Yeah. What is this? Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
Who knows? Go and have a good time anyways, right? Just put the coat of armor on and protection, and ask yourself, is it a good day for me to be outside? And just trust yourself. And we've been moving clouds and getting sunlight, or like getting the sunshine for a couple of days. The one group, we did a meditation on rain. It rained a couple of days later. So this is the metaphysics stuff you're talking about, using our innate senses, right? So I've got some fantastic books for references that we can look at as well, and learning how to do it, learning how to wake ourselves up to these abilities, right? So I'll leave all of your contact information in the description box, as I normally do, and I'll include mine there as well. If anybody out there, you find this video useful or know anybody who can benefit from listening to it, please hit the like or subscribe button, or both, and share it with other people so we can start getting the word out here, because I'm pretty excited about a lot of things that are happening right now.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Hopefully the tide is turning.
Yeah, I hope so. And I think it is, right? Energetically, that's what it feels like. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for checking in with us, and we'll see you next time.